up through anime. Show me how they like to play. Took me to the movie theater. This is what they had to say.
I can't remember if I cried or if I laughed. I just remember I want my money back. I can't remember if it sucked or if I had a blast. All I know is at the end of the show, when the credits rolled, it said FilmtopiaCast 3000.
Hello and welcome to another episode of FilmtopiaCast 3000. I'm your host Greg McIver, and with me as always is
Nicky Boom-Boom.
Well, we're really excited to be back with y'all, and we're just gonna dive right in. Let's look at some stuff. Okay, let's
look at some different things.
Yeah, let's narrow that down a bit. Why don't we check out the movie that we just watched last night?
We did just see a movie last night.
Absolutely. Yes. Let's check that out instead.
They haven't seen each other in 20 years.
I'm free to do what I want.
But tonight, they're returning to their hometown to finish the ultimate bar crawl.
This is our chance to finally conquer the Golden Mile. 12 pubs, 12 pints.
And this time, they're going to make it to the last bar, the World's End.
Go!
That's right. We're going to be talking about the latest offering from director Edgar Wright and co-stars Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, The World's End.
The World's End features Simon Pegg as a man who has trouble letting go of the past. He manages to convince his 4 childhood friends to revisit their old hometown in order to finish a pub crawl that they were unable to complete back in their childhood. Initially, everything seems to be going according to plan, when all of a sudden things take a turn for the worse when they discover that robots have invaded the town and are slowly replacing all of the town's inhabitants. They must now battle their way through this new foe and make it to the world's end before the world in fact does end for good. So, Nick, what did you think of The World's End?
I laughed. It's, these guys are good at being very, very funny.
Yes.
As we've seen with the other 2 installments of the, I believe you told me it's called the Cornetto Trilogy.
The Cornetto Trilogy, yes. I'm not specifically certain why. I guess I didn't pay that much attention to the movies.
It has something to do with a fictional brand of snack food, though, right?
Something like that, yeah, because at the end of The World's End, a piece of paper blows by, and it's got the Cornetto brand on the front of it. That a piece of paper blows by at the end of the movie?
That's a big spoiler.
God! Why are they always telling me about random trash blowing through the movies?
So anyway, there's a wrapper with
Cornetto brand something or other on the front of it.
And I guess you see that in Shaun of the Dead and in Hot Fuzz as well.
Yeah, so I guess it does loosely connect the worlds. But again, mainly the trilogy is more of a thematic trilogy than anything else. If you're not familiar with what trilogy we're talking about, the first movie was Shaun of the Dead, and then it went to Hot Fuzz after that, and then now we're ending with The World's End. So I would agree with you. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was very funny. I always like these guys when they get together. It's smart writing, good comic timing all around. I mean, Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are a modern day, Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello. They're just really, really good together. And when you throw Edgar Wright into the mix, you get gold, in my opinion.
I think he's always pretty much thrown into the mix too.
Yeah, well, no, they did Paul together.
Oh, you're right. There was Paul.
They did Paul, so they can exist without him.
All right.
They do not depend on him.
The other thing that we were talking about last night that they really excel at is doing pictures that are basically a parody of the genre.
Yes. But
also are an excellent version of that movie. So
right.
With Shaun of the Dead, it's a zombie movie, but it's also kind of a parody of zombie movies.
Yes.
And with Hot Fuzz, it's a parody of action cop movies.
Right.
But it's also a really good one.
Of course, absolutely. And you get the same thing with this one. This is a parody of sort of like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers type flick.
Yeah.
And but in the end, it's actually a really decently well-made Invasion of the Body Snatchers type flick. That's really why these movies work and are as enjoyable as they are. And we're like movies like Superhero Movie or Scary Movie 5 or some shit like that. those movies fail because they're not actually being good examples of the genre that they're parodying.
They're just being terrible platforms for
stupid jokes and
cultural references,
pop
culture references.
Which again, pop culture references are fine as long as you have some nice framework to go along with them. But if that's all you've got going for you, then you've got nothing. So yeah, Shaun of the Dead is a great zombie movie, but it also happens to be making fun of zombie movies. And the same with Hot Fuzz, great cop movie, making fun of cop movies, and then The World's End, as we said. Again, I think they hit it out of the park with this one. I was very, very pleased. What would you say, Nick, is your favorite of the trilogy at this point?
I would really need to go back and rewatch before I make a statement on that.
Come on, go out there, make that statement. Put it out there on the line. Enrage the fan base.
I think Hot Fuzz did make me laugh the most consistently.
Yeah, I would actually kind of agree with you. Damn it, I was hoping it would go with Shaun of the Dead so we could have more of an argument. No, I agree with them. Hot Fuzz is probably my favorite of the trilogy as well. I think consistently it has the most laughs, and it's just really damn funny. Shaun of the Dead is great too, and so is this new movie. But Hot Fuzz just from beginning to end, every second I was practically laughing until I was crying.
Well, one thing we talked about last night also was you mentioned that Hot Fuzz doesn't really have any sort of message about it. It's just
really.
kind of like in the Naked Gun type. Well, it's not like Naked Gun, but it's in that vein of like
not that specific type of parody. Yeah. With Shaun of the Dead, you get a message. And you get it right at the very beginning of the movie, human beings going along throughout their daily lives, almost seeming like zombies and just not being able to break out of their shell. And you've got the character of Sean, who is very much a part of that, and he needs to sort of do something different with his life, be an individual, carve out, something for himself. And the zombie invasion that happens sort of allows himself to do that.
We get a similar thing in The World's End.
Yeah,
well.
Absolutely.
There's Simon Pegg's character.
Don't you interrupt me.
Okay,
I'm kidding you. No, go ahead. We're a team here.
Simon Pegg's character just can't grow up. It's 20 years after they've graduated high school, and he's still just stuck in his past. All his friends have kind of moved on, and he's still just stuck in this party boy lifestyle that he led in high school, and thinks that the only good things in life are getting ripped and going to bars, basically.
So yeah, the ultimate point of the movie is essentially learning to try and go beyond that and really kind of wake up and assume the responsibilities of adult. Or so the movie would lead you to think that's what it's about.
Yeah, it kind of throws a red herring message at you.
Yeah, it has, for a movie that's about robots that are filled with blue goo and such, this actually has a fairly realistic kind of tone to it as far as yes, that is a message that a lot of people out there would like to convey is you let go of the past, don't hold on to it tight, just be a new person, a different person, but I don't think...
Come and rejoin society, be a member of society.
Exactly.
And one thing that this movie seems to say, I don't want to, let's not spoil anything too much, but it kind of belabors that point for a while, and at a certain point it kind of lets it go, and it's some people don't, you can't help some people don't want to be part of society. Some people
realistic.
just want to live in the past and do what they do, and that's really all they want.
It's sort of refreshing in that sense, a bit of realism like that, because I'm sure that the bleeding hearts out there be like, never give up, but sometimes with some people it's just not going to happen.
Or they don't want your help.
Yeah, or they don't want your help, and it's a sad kind of state of affairs, but that's just the way it is sometimes. But again, this movie does come along with a fairly clear message, even if it doesn't achieve the goal of that message. The message is still there. With Hot Fuzz, you don't really get a message so much. It's
not that I remember.
No, it's a parody of dramatic cop movies.
Maybe something about not being bullied by your family or your community, I guess.
Maybe. Maybe. But all I know is that you have the Simon Pegg character in Hot Fuzz, who is very much like a straight-laced cop, who doesn't believe in all of the shooting for the sake of shooting and all the action. Meanwhile, you've got his idiot partner, played by Nick Frost, who is just constantly going on about the excitement of the explosions and the chases and the gunfight, and Simon Pegg keeps trying to tell him, no, that's not what police work is about, that's not what police work is about. And at the end of the movie, that's exactly what the police work ends up being about. So, again, it's sort of, whatever little message that the movie had with Hot Fuzz, it sort of takes it and turns it on its head. It's like, screw the moral at this point. We're here to have fun. We're here to make a fun movie. But yeah, consistently, Hot Fuzz I think is the funniest out of all of them. I'm sure some purists out there will say Sean, but that's just kind of where we're at when it comes to the trilogy.
Now, one thing that this movie, at The World's End, has in common with Hot Fuzz is that we get a former Bond.
Yes, we do.
Sort of a villainous role.
We do. And in Hot Fuzz, you had Timothy Dalton as the film's main antagonist, and in this one, you get a guest spot with Pierce Brosnan, which is always good to see Mr. Brosnan doing work. It's nice. The movies do have a sort of consistency with their casting, obviously, and the little people that they bring back, like Filch from Harry Potter. The gnarled janitor person. He's in this one, and he was in Hot Fuzz as well. So,
and one of the bartenders in this one is one of their old buddies from a great show called Space.
Yes,
which was the first Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost
project. Yeah, it was a TV show on the BBC.
Which if you haven't seen it, you gotta check it out.
You really should check it out. It's fantastic. It's got all of the friggin' pop culture references that you could ever ask for in any type of TV show. But at the same time, it's surrounded by interesting
characterization and like
exactly. The characters go on a journey, even if they have to double back a little bit and then go back around to the moral, the goal. It still happens. It's a really really fun show. Definitely, you should check it out.
Very funny.
So yeah, no, always nice to see the old stable of Edgar Wright actors pulling it back together again. It was great comedy, some fun action. It was you even mentioned before, it's very much in the same vein of Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, one thing it seemed to me, because he made this after Scott Pilgrim, Edgar Wright did. And I love Scott Pilgrim, by the way.
Oh, Scott Pilgrim's brilliant. It's a fantastic film.
Yeah, and one of the great things about Scott Pilgrim is just, like, everybody just kind of knows how to fight. Just in that world, you just have to accept that, like, people know how to fight. In Scott Pilgrim, because it's so video gamey, everybody kind of knows martial arts.
Yeah.
In this one, because it's this sort of, like, pub crawl fantasy of, like, getting your boys back together from your youth, and reliving your youth, everybody just is an excellent bar brawler.
Yeah, it's just brawling. Yeah, there's no like form or anything like that.
The robots like kind of do kung fu.
Yeah, but if anything, the humans, there's more wrestling moves than anything else. Like I saw a few suplexes throughout the fight scenes, and at one point I thought I saw somebody perform the rock bottom. Yeah. But aside from that,
we do get a great elbow drop from Nick Frost.
Nick Frost does.
By the way, that's another really refreshing thing about this movie is that Nick Frost in the other movies kind of plays like the goon or he plays like the goon or like the
sheepish nerd that's just
but he's seen as like lesser, I think, than Simon Pegg in a lot of ways in the other movies. In this one, he's kind of the character that has his shit together. Yeah. And he's also, like, the best fighter of the group.
Oh, absolutely. And, he kicks ass in this movie.
Yeah, Nick Frost kicks ass in this movie is what I'm trying to say, and it's nice to see that.
It's just a really fun movie all around. I did have a little problem with it towards the end. I can't really go into it too much without going into spoiler territory. But for those of you that have seen the movie, you might maybe know what I'm talking about. Just sort of the sanctity of human life. I put it into question at one point, because the movie is a very fun, fantastical sort of story, but then it does slow down in certain scenes and it becomes more poignant, and
it has its pathos in dealing with the message of moving on.
Yeah, moving on and
concerning addiction.
Yeah, Simon Pegg's character has a past, littered with addiction and stuff. So it does get serious at moments, and because you're invested with the characters, you actually care about what they're talking about. So those moments aren't out of place per se, but it's what comes after it that I question a little bit. So it wasn't a deal breaker, but it did make me pause and think, did Edgar Wright have a Robert Rodriguez moment where he just stopped caring about the characters? Again, not a deal breaker, but something I did notice. But
I get what you're saying with that now.
Yeah.
I didn't get it at the time, but like Desperado.
To give you an example, Desperado. His two friends come on a bus to help him fight off the bad guys with their guitar cases full of guns, and then they die. And Antonio Banderas just kind of does like a...
Yeah, during the fight, he'll kind of glance in their direction, and that's kind of it.
That's the only relationship they seem to have.
Doesn't shed any tears for them, certainly.
I don't even think he says one word to them.
I don't think he does either.
Entire scene. They die, and he's just
no thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah. Like, whoops, chose the wrong person to befriend. Yeah. But, so, I had that small little moment. Again, it wasn't a deal breaker. This is a fine movie. You should definitely see it. incredibly well made. Visuals are fantastic. Comedy's top notch.
A lot of really good physical comedy too. They're good.
Yeah, absolutely. Timing is great. You know, they have a bit of fun with wordplay here and there throughout the movie callbacks. It's just there's really not much more to say. It's just a fun time.
Yeah, there's no like controversial arguments we can make.
Let me tell you why I believe Edgar Wright sucks. No, I'm kidding. No, he's fantastic. He's a fantastic director, and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are class acts. I could sit and watch them read from a phone book, and I'm sure they'd find a way to make it hilarious. So, nothing earth-shattering with this one. Just if you weren't sure if you should see The World's End,
you should see it.
It's
exciting. It's funny.
Yeah.
Go see it.
It's the total package, absolutely. Well, was there anything else you needed to get off your chest this episode? Not literally. You're good? Well, I don't even have to check. I know I'm good. Thank you very, 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 very much. Very, very much.
Very, very much, everybody.
I'm rehearsing for our Christmas episode that's coming up. Anyway, we're going to go now. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.